Not only does iQuote allow you to create sales quotes for existing QAD/EA customers and items, but you can create sales quotes for new prospects and new items too. With improved quote turnaround time, standardized pricing, quotation visibility, improved pricing control, quotation history, and quotation metrics, iQuote is a state-of-the-art, powerful, and flexible quotation management solution. Let's begin today by showing you how to create a quote within the iQuote application. We'll start within the iQuote workbench. At the top of the page, you'll notice the quote number, an order number, which will display once the quote is converted to a sales order, the person who entered the quote, the originator if different than the person who entered the quote, and an originating location such as a site code. Below, there is a tabbed interface that will contain all of the general information about the quote. Let's pretend that we're entering a quote for a specific customer who is looking for a new quote for a specific product. We'll simply ask for the customer name. Once we start typing in the contact name field, a list of potential matches will appear in a drop-down. Once we find and select the correct name, the remaining header information will automatically populate. This includes the contact and customer information, salesperson, territory sales manager, and regional sales manager. After verifying the quote information, we'll click the Save button. This action assigns the quote number, and a pop-up will indicate that the quote has been saved. Once saved, additional contacts can be associated with this quote. These contacts can be notified when the quote is approved, and they'll receive email notifications. Competitive information can be stored within iQuote on the Additional Info tab. The fields here are fully customizable. The administrator can change the field labels and the values within each field. On the right side of this screen are some dates that iQuote will keep track of automatically. iQuote allows you to create custom fields based on what your end user needs to complete a quote. There are 40 fields that can be added to the system. These custom fields can have different data types. For example, we can use a text field or a date field. The administrator can also remove any of these fields if they are not required. iQuote allows notes and attachments on each individual quote. There are internal and external notes. An external note will print on the quote for the customer to view, while an internal note will only be viewed by people within your company. An unlimited number of attachments can be stored on a quote, and they can also be emailed to the customer contacts. If master comments are being used in QAD, they can also be added to the quote by pressing the blue arrow next to the desired master comments in the list. Let's move on to line item entry. We'll start by adding a line item that already exists in QAD. You can search using the item number or the description field. Once you start typing in either field, a list will appear with matching items. When you select the correct item, some of the fields will automatically populate for you. Now you can move down and start quoting some quantities and prices. As you see, when you increase the quantity, the price goes down, which indicates that this item has price breaks. You can guess at where those price breaks occur, or you can click on the price break function to show where they occur within QAD. From this screen, you can select one or multiple price breaks to automatically place them on the quote. Once the items are saved, additional information can be captured. For example, start and end date of an item, delivery date, annual estimated quantity, and annual estimated quantity unit of measure. These two fields will create a forecast for this item and quantities for the next 12 months. The line item screen has some of the same tabs as the header screen: notes, attachments, master comments, and custom fields. There is also a stock status report that can be executed at any time. Now we can close this line item and move on to the next one. The next line might be for a new item that you don't sell yet. You'll be required to enter an item number and description for the new item. You can enter a second description and a quote description, but these are not required. You can select a product line, a product manager, pricing group, stock unit of measure, quote UOM, and a manual price list if you have one. Since this is a brand new item, you must give it a price. If you don't have a price, the pricing group will be required to determine a price for this item. We'll save this line too. Here, we see that the annual estimated quantity and UOM are required for new items. We'll enter this information and save and close the line. Once we've added all the line items needed for this quote, we'll submit the quote for approval. After saving, the status has changed to pending, and if we look at the approval history, we see the North America Pricing Group made up of several people and Alex Chen for his approval. You see that Alex is out of the office. Functionality to handle this is built into the product. From the list, you see that Bill Copps is responsible for Alex Chen approvals while he is out of the office. iQuote has both sequential and simultaneous approvals, and you can configure it so one approver has to wait for the prior approver to approve. Or you can set it up that anyone on the approver list can come in and approve the quote at any time. Let's sign off and log back in as Craig Wolfus so we can approve this quote. When an approver logs in, he or she sees the queue of work that needs to be completed. As you see, quote 280 is the only quote that Craig needs to approve. Upon selecting the quote, the user is brought to the Approver tab, where they can enter either approval or rejection notes. Before approving this quote, the approver can look through all the information and make changes as they see fit. For example, if the approver wanted to change the end customer value, they would just change the field and save the quote. An approver can also change information on each of the line items within the quote. Any changes made by the approver will be tracked in the audit trail. For example, you can see that Craig Wolfus has changed the OEM code. Before, it was blank, and after, it was 1. Audit trail captures all changes to the quotation. Now we'll approve this quote as Craig Wolfus by clicking the approval button and entering his password. Once approved, you can see that the approval for North American Pricing Group has met its requirement by Craig Wolfus on October 18, 2011 at 12:24 p.m. We see that this quote still needs to be approved by Alex Chen. I will now log off as Craig Wolfus and log back in as Alex Chen. We land on the same approval page as Craig Wolfus did. Now Alex can approve this quote, or he can retract the quote if he was the originator, or he can reject the quote altogether. We'll approve the quote. The quote has been approved and it now can be printed and sent off to the customer. We'll print the English version of the quote, mark the quote as delivered, and then press print. This quote will be emailed to the contacts that are specified within the quote. If the customer calls back to place the order from the quote, and let's say they need 50 from line item 1 and do not want line item 2 at all, you can create a sales order right from the iQuote screen. Just enter the PO number and press Create the Sales Order. You see the system created sales order SO10257. The user can then print the sales order, which creates a PDF via the standard QAD sales order print, with only 50 pieces selected. This concludes our iQuote demonstration. For more information about iQuote or any of the ISS Group suite of add-value products, visit our website, issgroup.com.